Shalom? Yeah. Shalom? Shalom, we're there. Yay, we got power. Okay, we're on camera, we're on video, we're on audio. We're good. This is the Messianic revelation portion of the book of the Bamidbar studies. And we're starting this new unit with it as well. We're in the parables of Messiah. We've had 2 weeks talking about this. We've talked about a couple of parables. It kind of all was led into by the parable of those who say to me, Lord, Lord. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord. That was the last part of Sermon on the Mount. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven. And so we went through there, and he went through his parable teaching. We started about the sermon, the sower and the seed, the parable of the sower and the seed. And last week we also talked about the parable of the mustard of the tares, seed and the wheat and the tares. Okay, wheat and the tares. So we're going to step off into another level of his teaching. It's all going to be about the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven is like. Do we really know what the kingdom of heaven is like? And the problem that Yeshua was dealing with was the fact that people did not know what the kingdom of heaven was like. They didn't then, and we most of all don't now. We have different false beliefs about the kingdom of heaven than they do, and we'll talk about some of those in a minute. But the time of Yeshua, the people of Israel had seen the raging nations and the kingdoms of the various countries, the kingdoms of this world, the kingdoms of men. They had seen them over and over and over again till that was in kingdom was associated with what they'd seen. What the kingdom is associated with men, what was it? Well, it started biblically with Egypt. What was that like? What's the kingdom of Egypt like? Oh, it didn't end there. What's the kingdom of Babylon like? Kingdom after kingdom. What's the kingdom of Persia like? The whole Esther story and what happened there. What the kingdom of Rome, of Greece. We left out Greece, right? We left out Greece. Kingdom of Greece and Alexander the Great. Now, what was his kingdom like? And then the times of the Maccabees and the issue of the Syrian Greeks. And we've learned kingdom after kingdom after kingdom. We know the ways of the kingdoms of this world, and they've colored our vision of what the kingdom of heaven looks like by the time of Yeshua's arrival. And now we got the Romans, and they're the worst of them all. They're the most vile of them all. The rest of them were bad. These are all. Now, here's what you find out is, in the kingdoms of this world, it starts with a revolution, with angry talk, with offense, and with revolution. That's how you get kingdoms. This world develop. They develop out of angry rhetoric and rebellion and revolution. Well, look at our country. We dumped tea in the bay in Boston, and then we declared our independence, and then we dared England to come get us. And when they did try to come get us, we pulled out musket rifles and Paul Revere Road, and we beat them at their own game. That's the way. And the kingdoms of this world, are all about revolution, rebellion, and angry rhetoric. If you don't understand that, you don't know what you're listening to when you listen to the news today. You're just listening to kingdom nonsense. Kingdom of this world nonsense. So that was the first thing that happened, is that you started out a revolution. The other thing is that kingdoms of this world are always like, the old joke about the Bolsheviks. And I always said, I will remember you when we come into the revolution. In other words, I'm going to pay you back for all the things you did to me. It's about vengeance. Not only is it about rhetoric and about anger and about hate and about nation stuff, wars. It's about vengeance. They're going to get theirs. We're going to pay them back. And not only vengeance, it's about profit taking. The kingdoms of this world are based upon the fact that they've had what we want, and we're going to take over and we're going to take what they had. We're going to get it. We're going to get it for ourselves. This is the way the kingdoms of this world make. So whenever the people of Yeshua's time heard the word kingdom of heaven, they just imposed the thought process of the world upon the kingdom of heaven. They thought, okay, we're going to have a revolution. We're going to drive those Romans out of our land. We're going to take back, and not only that, we're going to have vengeance upon those Romans. We're going to make them pay for what they did to us. And not only that, we're going to take all their wealth. And we're going to become wealthy. We're going to have our own economy. We're going to do what they did to the rest of the world. We're going to subjugate the rest of the world. And immediately what's going to happen is, out of the text, they went to the text of the Torah and the prophets and the stories of David and Solomon. They said, okay, what immediately is going to happen when the Messiah comes? Because he's our king maker, king leader. When Messiah comes, immediately what's going to happen is he's going to call all the exiles from all the nations, like Moshe did to all the heads of the tribes and the tribal people. They're going to all come up and be restored, be returned to Israel. They're going to all come home. And then he's going to build a throne in Jerusalem, build the temple in Jerusalem. And he's going to reign. The Torah is going to be used as the law of all the lands and send out and completely take over and be imposed upon all the nations of the world. And all this stuff's going to happen. That's the idea. Yeshua knew this was the idea that the common man in his time had about the kingdom of heaven. If you mention the kingdom of heaven, that's what they're going to think of. And he had to dispel that belief. Now, we'll talk about how he dispelled that belief through parables, through stories. The kingdom of heaven is the exact opposite of what that is. Now, all those things are going to happen, except for one part of it. The one thing that they didn't understand that is not going to happen, all the tribes are going to be called back together. They're going to return to the land. The temple will be rebuilt. The throne will be in place. There will be courtiers and ambassadors down out to the world. They will carry the Torah with them all through the world. This is the way the end of the days is going to work its way out. The problem is they had the word immediately put in there. The word immediately. They thought it would happen immediately. They thought it would happen whenever the kingdom of heaven, when Messiah first showed up, and immediately all this would happen, and that's what he had to dispel their minds of. It's not going to happen immediately. To the contrary, it's going to take generations. So these are the parables of the mustard seeds and the parables of the treasure hidden in the field and the treasure of the leaven in a lump of leaven in the great batch of dough, and the parable of the pearl of great price found somewhere in some oyster we're looking at. Why are we looking at the oysters in the first place? But anyway, we're finding pearls of great price. So he's going to use these parables to dispel that false idea and teach little elements of the timing of the Holy One and the process of the Holy One in the process. Now, we talked about what the day of Yeshua's coming, first coming, what the misunderstandings or deceptions about the kingdom of heaven was. Fast forward to today. What are the deceptions and misconceptions about the kingdom of heaven today? I'll start. Nobody volunteer. I'll start. The first common deception or misconception about the kingdom of heaven today is that it's sometime in the future. Is that it's when we die and go to heaven and the great by and by, up somewhere up there, after everybody dies, and then the kingdom of heaven will come. The kingdom of heaven is a futuristic state that's going to come after everybody dies. It's the first deception. And the idea is we're going to have some event take place before the kingdom of heaven can have any operation on the earth. And most people think of it in terms of death. The second thing about it is, the second deception is, let's see if I can think this through with you. Y'all come up with an idea. What's the second deception?
Right, is that if you pray the sinner's prayer, you'll be in the kingdom of heaven.
Okay. So, and I'm going to enlarge that because it's not just that. And some other people say, well, if you're baptized, you got to be baptized. Other people say, not only you got to say the sinner's prayer, and you got to be baptized, you have to give 1/10 your finances to the local church. Others will say you have to take the Lord's Supper in sacramental form once a quarter or whenever. And you have to breathe the Holy Spirit. You have to speak in tongues. This is the initial evidence. And so they have all these theories about what the kingdom of heaven, the requirements to get the kingdom of heaven that are sacramental in their nature. in that process. I can't repeat what Elmer said, but I'll get Elmer a chance to speak on the microphone this time and get it recorded. I'll do the best you can.
Elmer's mind doesn't work as good as it used to, but more or less, I said that praying the sinner's prayer gets a person into the kingdom of heaven. A prayer.
So Bill backed it up with, so there has to be some kind of requirement. Is that not what?
Yeah, I did say that, and that would include also some sort of a doctrinal statement. You have to believe a creed, Apostles' Creed or something like that has to be your mindset and your belief. This is the sort of the misconceptions and deceptions about the kingdom of heaven in today's world, and that somehow it's dependent upon status or affects your status. The kingdom of heaven affects your salvation. That salvation is what this is about, or what's the other word? Justification. These big English words. These big English words have something to do with the kingdom of heaven, they think, and so therefore they tie this issue of salvation and justification into the kingdom of heaven, and that's one of the deceptions about the. There's another issue altogether. That's the kingdom of heaven is not that issue.
Isn't another misconception about the kingdom of heaven also that Christianity has said these bad things have to happen in some sequential order before the kingdom can come, and we've all been programmed with that stuff.
Yeah, I think it's part of the futuristic kind of an idea.
Right.
That something else has to happen.
Rather than it being inside and coming.
Right. As Yeshua told the Pharisees of all people, which offends us to hear, but he said to the Pharisees, do you not know that the kingdom of heaven is within you? It's not waiting to show up. It's not dependent upon some future event or some ecclesiastical formula or some doctrine. It's also, the other thing is, people confuse today, they confuse the church with the kingdom. And when they talk about the church, they either talk about it in terms of the local church, any particular local church, or perhaps any denomination of those local churches, or perhaps a universal church like the Catholic Church or just the universal church in general. And they tie this word church to the kingdom of heaven, and the two are not tied. First of all, we got a long way to go to get to church from Kahila, the witness throng, the called ones of the Holy One, to some form and structure of ecclesiastical nature that we deal with, and the animal we deal with, what's called the church now. But assuming you get past that, you're still not dealing with the kingdom. You're dealing with the church. And that's another story. So the kingdom of heaven, what is the kingdom? And so if it's not of the church or of the synagogue or of any of these organized religious structures, what is it? Is it a movement that came out of them? No, it's not going to be any movement. You're not going to say the kingdom is the movement of the Torah, the movement of the whatever, movement of the worship movement. It's not the tongues movement. It's not the charismatic movement. It's none of those things. That's something. That's men do things and get a little touch from the Holy One and something happens. That's good, but that's not the kingdom. So we have these deceptions, these illusions, still today about what the kingdom of heaven is. That's why the parables were not just told to the multitudes, they were written down for us. And we get to read the parables too, to dispel the confusion about what the kingdom of heaven is. And the problem is that our minds are not really capable of understanding the kingdom of heaven. So he doesn't talk to our minds. He talks to our hearts. I was listening to something the other day, and they were talking about the song from 1972 or 1. Tie a yellow ribbon round the old oak tree. It's been 3 long years. Can you still warn me? If I don't see a ribbon tied around the old oak tree, I'll stay on the bus. Forget about us. Put the blame on me if I don't see a yellow ribbon round the old oak tree. And this is a story that he tells. And before you know it, you're on the bus with this guy and you've been in prison with him for 3 years. And you left under uncertain terms with your wife and your family, and you don't know whether you're welcome back home or not. And you can't really explain how you feel, but it's all tied up in that stupid oak tree. And what happens at that oak tree? When this bus passes that oak tree, that's going to make one heck of a big difference as which way you go, whether you stop and get off and go back home or whether you don't. And you know, and excuse me for the words, but this is what he said. Now the whole damn bus is cheering, and I can't believe I see 100 yellow ribbons around the old oak tree. Now you get the you don't know how to describe this, but you just felt it. That's the way the kingdom of heaven works. You can't put words around it. You can't put theology around it. You can't put doctrine into it. You can't put that kind of stuff into it. You can't list out the principles of it. It is what it is, and you feel it, and you know it's hit you when it hits you. And you're not the same, and your world's going to change. That oak tree is going to change your life. So, let's talk about the parables. If we're going to dispel the... Oh, go ahead, Deb.
At least in my mind, the oak tree is the living Torah. And the world has this idea of the Bible and the 10 Commandments and the shouts and the shout nots. But the living Torah is the heart, the mind, the will of the creator of the universe. And it's apart from the world's understanding of the Bible and how it works, because we're all in process of trying to figure that out. But having the Holy Spirit inside us to interpret and to cause us to hear and to resonate is a whole nother ball game. It's not that we know, but yes, we feel it. We know it in our spirit, even though with all the words in the world, we can't really explain it. We just do the best we can.
It's like the oak tree is for instance, let's just use one example. The oak tree is what people call the 10 Commandments. And every one of those rascals has a yellow ribbon tied around it. You can see it as a bunch of laws. You see it as a bunch of rules. It's a bunch of requirements or restrictions, or you can see it as a yellow ribbon oak tree, saying, "This is where we come. This is your oak tree. Come home, come home, come home. You're welcome at home. Come back where you belong, where you are. This is not a set of rules you got to follow to get here. This is what you live like when you get here. This is the oak tree of home. This is home for you." And there's a relationship here involved, deep relationship with all these 10 words, and could go be to the 613, the whole issue of the Torah. Every instruction has a yellow ribbon tied around it. And the modern religious world likes to call them laws, ordinances, and regulations, like it's some impersonal thing like the nations do to their people. And the Holy One says, no, this is who I see you as. This is what I created you to be. This is the way I created you to be in position on the chessboard, is to behave in this way and manner and act like this. And this is the proof that I've got a yellow ribbon out there, and you saw the yellow ribbon and you came home. This is the proof to the world of it's your banner. This is your flag. This is your standard. This is the way it works. So let's talk about the parables. Anybody else want to mention anything before we go on? Yeah, Karen. Okay. Yeah.
Can you explain to me, because I'm still stuck in a little bit of religion, how am I supposed to like help people get to Christ if there's not these little rules and regulations? Because my brain is kind of like I'm stuck on the whole you have to say a prayer and all that. So what do we do instead of that? Okay, I'm sorry. That sounds like a little kid, and I'm almost 60 years old. But I'm sorry.
And the key factor to remember is we're talking about two different things. We're talking about, on the one hand, personal salvation, which is not something that's talked about a whole heck of a lot in either the New Testament or certainly not the Old, but nevertheless is mentioned. And it's mentioned prominently, and so we catch that. But the problem is trying to tie the kingdom of heaven and the will and the plan of God being performed in the earth and using us as his servants to do so with personal salvation. Personal salvation is the relationship of whether we're, and I don't even want to get into the details of it, but most people think it means you're going to go to heaven when you die. Or maybe it means you've been justified from your sin, whatever theology you get from reading Romans or reading Galatians or whatever. It's some kind of sacramental thing that happens to you, but it has some substance to it. And let's go with a very basic is somehow that you've been forgiven of your sins, and therefore you've entered into some sort of state where personally you're okay with God. Okay, that's salvation, for what it's worth. That is not the goal of the Bible to get you saved. That is merely one of the elements of the bigger picture. The bigger picture is to do the will of God on the earth. To bring the will of God to bear across the nations, across the boundary lines, across time and generations, across all things, and bringing that which was planned from the beginning to come back to bear in the future. And the individual human being plays a role in that, and the individual salvation is this much of it, but it is an important this much of it. But it's not the focus of any of the Bible. It's merely a thing that is recognized and acknowledged as being part of the game plan for individual salvations.
So when you said that, what hit me, and I think I just lost it, was he was telling the Pharisees, you think you know me by the scriptures. You know, you study the scriptures, and by that you think you know me. And so I've struggled with that in my walk with the Lord, because I've been an avid studier of scripture. And so what you're saying to me is, I don't know. I'm like, Karen, I'm kind of lost in this at this point. No, you're not the only one.
No, look, having walked this walk as well, I mean, listen, for the first year and a half of my walk with the creator of the universe, with Yeshua, in 1970, 71, it was pure relationship, meeting and walking with, and whatever you want to do to serve the master of the universe. I had zero connection to church. I hadn't even set a foot in a door in church since I was 7 years old. And that was because a friend of mine went and scared me to death, because they were Methodists and they took communion and you had to get down on your knees and they had to put this thing in your mouth and they made you drink out of everybody else's cup. And they talk about all sorts of crazy things. And I was like, I was scared to death. I didn't want to go. So this was the only time I've ever been. And so for the first year and a half, it was none of that. And then they began to invite me to go places and start teaching certain things. And where do you do that? You do it a lot of times in church. And they began to incorporate me in youth programs and in various different meeting schedules and worship teams and stuff like that in the church. And to be honest with you, I didn't know any better, and I sold out 100%. And I parroted everything they told me. If they told me about salvation, I parroted what they told me about salvation. If they parroted about forgiveness of sins, I parroted what they told me about forgiveness of sins. And I parroted it because that's what they talk about. That's all they talk about. And you parrot it and you begin to believe it and you teach it. So for the next 25 years, I was a mouthpiece for the church, saying whatever they wanted me to say. Sometimes I was a mouthpiece for the Baptist. Then I became a mouthpiece for the Methodist. Then I became a mouthpiece for the Charismatics and the Pentecostals. And I just began to regurgitate stuff because this is what you do. And you think, well, it sounds pretty good. But what you do after a while, you lose contact with the real thing. I remember having this moment. I was having a meditation, my prayer time, 1995. In 1995, and I'm having this, I'm writing down my notes. I'm doing a journal-like thing, and I'm writing down my notes of what I'm thinking at the time. And it's like, I know now, I know the doctrines. I wrote it down. I know the doctrines. I know the theology. I know it better. I didn't know that when I was 16, 17 years old. I didn't know that then. I know all this stuff now. But you know what? I don't feel like I know Yeshua anymore. I wrote it down. I don't think I know Yeshua anymore. I don't see him. I don't hear him. I don't sense him. I'm not part of him. I say his name, Jesus. I said Jesus all the time, but I don't really know him. Now, anybody had this experience beside me? Don't raise your hand. And 25 years into this process of being a mouthpiece for the church, it's like, I can't do this anymore. I just can't spew things because that's what people say. What seminaries teach is what they expect you to believe and confess and write on your creed card. I can't do that anymore. I got to have where I came in. I got to go back to where I came in. I got to find the one who brought me into this mess, in this thing in the first place. I got to find what he wants and follow him. And that's what I want to do. I want to follow him. And wherever he leads me, that was my theme in the Jesus Movement days. Wherever he leads, I'll go. Wherever he leads, I'll go. I'll follow my Christ who loves me so. Wherever he leads, I'll go. And suddenly, I have this dream, and in this dream, or it's a vision, he appears to me. I've been asking that I'd see him again. He appears to me in this vision and says, why don't you sing that song anymore? Wherever he leads, I'll go. Wherever he leads, why don't you sing that song anymore? He wasn't accusing me. He was asking me if I knew why I didn't sing that song anymore. I said, because it's not true. Because I know it's not true. I won't follow you wherever you lead. I was young and idealistic, and I thought I knew you better then than I know you better know you now. I know all the doctrines, I know all the theologies, I know all the teachings, I know all the creeds, I know all that stuff now, but I don't know you anymore. And so can't sing that song if I don't know what I'm talking about. And he said, good, you figured that out. It wasn't trying to accuse me, he was trying to heal me. And that's where we all got in 1995. That's where I got back on the road away from the organized, structured stuff, and saying, whatever you do, you got to follow him. And yeah.
Can I give an example?
Yeah.
So this is my example. So this is Elmerology. So please. And if I say something wrong, Bill, you won't offend me. Just be like, ignore what he just said. But as far as salvation, especially coming from a Baptist background, because that was it. That was the pinnacle. That's every Sunday morning. So the example I put to try to explain it to my Baptist friends would be, here's an example. Let's say I said, look, I got a special prize for anybody that follows me to the Walmart gas station on this main road. You're going to fall in one of four categories. Either you're going to say, this guy's full of it, I don't believe him. Or you say, no, I really think he does have a prize, but I'm going to stay put. Or you're going to get up, you're going to follow me, but the road's going to be long, it's going to get hot, and you're going to turn around and come back. Or you're going to follow me all the way to the Walmart gas station to get your salvation. And so belief in Christ, as far as my Elmerology understanding is, I believe you and I follow you. And to claim that, thou shalt be saved. And with that comes, with depending, I guess, on our faithfulness and to him and, where he'll decide to put us in the kingdom, et cetera, et cetera. If I'm wrong, correct me, please. So. The chess game got me.
All right. So let's talk about the first parable. Let me read this real short. This is a short parable, okay? First one. Matthew 13, 31 and 32, 2 verses. You got to first of all get into the scene. Yeshua is there. He's in the field. He's with the people, with the multitudes. The multitudes have gathered around. You're in the multitude. And you think you know what the kingdom of heaven is. You've seen the other kingdoms of this world. You've got your own deceptions, your own and so you're expecting certain things when you hear the word kingdom. He's been talking about the kingdom since he came. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. Keep saying things like that. And now he's there, you're there, and he opens his mouth, and out of his mouth start flowing these words. Now I'm going to use English because it would have been Hebrew, but nevertheless, it was in English. That's what we got recorded in English. So the equivalent of the kingdom of heaven is like, and we're all on edge of our seats, is like what? The kingdom of heaven? What's it like? Tell me what it's like. I want to know what it's like. The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed. I wasn't expecting that one. Okay. That was not what I was thinking was going to come out of his mouth next, but the kingdom of heaven is like salvation, like justification, like doctrine, like theology, like church, like synagogue, like temple. No, the kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed. Oy vey. So the kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed. Okay, you've got our attention now, right? We're in the multitudes. We're just, and it's, whoa, heavy, man. The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed? We got to write this down. Write this down. The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed, which a man took and he sowed in his field. Now, hold on a second. He's messing with our minds. You don't sow mustard seed in a field. A field is for wheat. A field is for barley. A field is for flax. A field is for valuable crops. A field is too important to put mustard seed in it. The priorities are all messed up. Why is a man going forth to sow mustard in his own field? He's sowing mustard seed in his field. That's dumb. It doesn't comport with our knowledge of how to do things. It's different. Doesn't fit with any of our theologies. A man sowed mustard seed in his field. Okay. So it's got us freaked out already. And then he says, which indeed is the least, smallest, least significant of all the seeds. And if you know what, chordan in Hebrew, chordan, chordan, chordan. And it's what we get a yellow mustard from. And, the thing is, you don't sow it in the seed because it grows wild. It grows wild. It's like a weed, but you can use it. It's a weed that you can use. So you don't have to sow mustard seed in the field like a crop or something. It's a weed. So you sow this thing that doesn't seem to be what you want in the field, and you can use it for the oil, mustard oil. You put it on salads, use the salad dressing. You make it for the condiment out of it or some kind of spice out of it to make flavor your food. But, it's like a minor thing. Mustard seed's not a big deal, not something you would waste your time trying to focus your attention on planting a field full of it. But this guy does. This is what the story gets our attention. He said, when it indeed is the least of all the seeds, the smallest of all the seeds. And if you ever have seen a mustard seed, you can barely see a mustard seed. It's little and it's round. It looks like a little bitty mouse pellet. It's a little bitty. It's so tiny and it's so little and it's round. And it's like nothing as good is going to come out of this, right? But it does. He says when the man planted in the field, it's the least of all the seeds, most significant looking of all the seeds. But when it has grown, it's greater than all the herbs of the field. all the wheats and all the barley and all the other things, the flax and stuff you want. It's better, bigger than all, greater than all that. And it becomes a tree, an etz. We're in our morning sessions, we're doing return to and lay hold of the tree of life, etz, the etz of life, etz chaim. And so it becomes this ecosystem sustaining life force. This little seed didn't start out that way, didn't go immediately, there was no immediately to this. This was patience and wait and cultivate and do what you got to do and trust. And there it comes. When it comes, it comes. And it says it becomes greater than all the herbs and becomes a tree. And even the birds of the air come and rest in its branches. Now, he didn't give us any theology. He didn't give us one whit worth of doctrine or anything we could recite in a creed. But he just told us what the kingdom of heaven's like. And we felt it. Did you feel it? The kingdom of heaven is like this. The kingdom of heaven, you think it's worth nothing. You think it's nothing. You think it's just salvation is what's important. You think the kingdom of heaven is just a figment of people's imagination. It's just some kind of thing that might happen someday when we all die and go to heaven. It's something else. But no, this is like a mustard seed. To you, it looks very small and very insignificant. But if somebody has the vision to plant a field of mustard seed, he's going to change the world. It'll take time. It'll take the Holy One's movement and effort in the process, but if you let it grow, it will turn into an ecosystem supporting, sustaining fountain of growth. It will move mountains, exactly. It'll do all that. This is, you see how, now, he doesn't want you to have a mental understanding of the kingdom. He wants you to have an emotional attachment to the kingdom. He wants you to shema the voice and the sound and see that this is really my home. This is where I belong. This is the kind of thing I need to associate with, is this kingdom of heaven. Because this is that's home to me. That's my native language. That's my native sense. Not this world, that kingdom of heaven, that enterprise. So that's the first parable. The parable of the mustard seed. I hope everybody's seen a little different things in the parable of mustard seed than you ever maybe have seen before.
And that outrageous belief in the miraculous ability of this to fix the world through us who consider ourselves insignificant part of the universe. It changes everything, and it doesn't even fit into the human understanding of how things could be. It's so far above anything we call faith on the earth. It's a miracle. And that we get to be.
This is the miraculous coming to bear upon the earth in ways we cannot even explain.
Right.
We can't predict. We can't make them happen when they happen.
And we get to be a part of it.
Yeah. The other thing about a mustard seed is it's almost impossible to kill. It's very hardy. It's very resistant and resilient, resistant to bugs, resistant to any kind of weather. It just grows. That's why people plant mustard greens in the winter. And they grow over the winter because you can't kill the stuff. Virtually not. So that's the idea of the kingdom of heaven. You think it means nothing, but this is going to be the hardest thing to kill out. Once it starts and gets a hold, it's going to be hard to stop. Yeah. Yeah, okay. No Elmerology for that one. Oh, no.
So, where is the picture of the kingdom in the Old Testament or in Torah? I don't know, I don't know.
All right. So there's a lot of places where the answer to that question might be. Anybody have any thoughts? First of all, it's in Parsha Bamidbar. Okay, the whole idea of changing everything by rearranging the camp and letting the words and the plan of God actually be at the forefront of everybody's mind. So that's the idea. The whole kingdom of David, the Davidic kingdom and Solomon's kingdom all these pictures that are drawn for us. So there's probably 100 more, but that's two good ones right there. The idea of a kingdom. And he said at Sinai, when we first got there, 19:5, 3 through 5 of Exodus, he said, you will be a couple things. Anam Segulah, you'll be a kingdom of Kohanim, of royal ambassadors to the rest of the world. So this kingdom picture was drawn beginning with Exodus 19, carried forward to Numbers, and said everything's going to change in what you do and focus upon this kingdom. And then David is the perfect example, or imperfect example, I guess, a better way to put it. Okay, so second parable. The kingdom of heaven, he said. Now he had our attention, right? He's got your attention, right? Well, he knows stuff. And he's saying stuff that's hitting you in the heart. So he says, I got another one for you. Kingdom of heaven is like, what does he say? He says it's like leaven, like a lump of leaven, which a woman took. He said, now picture the woman in the kitchen. And she's got the grain, she's ground the grain. She has added a little bit of water, but she wants to activate the process. She doesn't want to have flat bread. She doesn't want to have wheaty tasting bread. She wants to have a bread that has a different flavor, different texture, has air bubbles and rises and looks better and looks more appealing and more beautiful. So she adds this little lump of this thing called leaven, this chametz, this alive mother, what do they call it? Culture. And she adds that, and she takes it, and it's very little. It's not the big old thing of dough she's got laid out there. It's not much, but she takes it, she starts to work it into the dough, and has to keep working it till it's all through the dough. And so she kneads the dough. She kneads the dough. She turns it over. She flips it over. She folds it. She unfolds it. She kneads it again, and then she's got the leaven gets worked all the way through the dough. Well, you know what happens, right? That flatbread turned into this beautiful challah, this beautiful cake, and it rises and it sits up majestically, and it's got a tan color on the top. You put a little butter on it, and it's like a work of art. It started as just a bunch of flour, ground flour, and some water, and this ugly looking little culture that you keep adding every day to feed. And it's really ugly, and it doesn't smell good. And suddenly you put this ugly, smelly, stinky thing into your dough, and you work it in there together, and you can't even tell it's in there anymore. But it's changing things because it's alive. That's the kingdom of heaven. That's what the kingdom of heaven is like.
And that makes me want to cry because it's such a homebody thing. And it's just like we are needing faith into our children, into our relationships, into perfect strangers, through every aspect of our being, just by being ourselves. Not who we thought we were when we were in Egypt for 400 years. Not when we were slaves to the world and to the ways of the world, but the essence of who he created us to be before we were sent here with our purpose. And it's just such a blessing to know that we were born just to be with him and to work together with him and to cast off the ways of the world.
Last week or the week before, we started talking about parables.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the secrets of understanding these parables is to understand you are in the parable. This is not something he's telling to somebody else that you're reading as some sort of a history or science book. You are in this parable. He wants you to be in the parable. So who are we in the parable? We're the one. Now, forget your gender confusion issue, but we're the woman. We're the woman. Now, what is the bread? What's the dough? The dough is our home. The dough is our workplace. The dough is our online presence. The dough is our conversations around the dinner table or around the water cooler or wherever we go. The business conversations in the marketplace. It's all, this is the dough, and we're supposed to be working a little bit of leaven into, not a whole lot. You don't overwhelm the dough. You work it and you knead it gently into the dough, into the conversations with your children or your spouse, into the conversations around the water cooler at your work or around the workplace or the boardroom table. You work a little bit of that leaven into the conversation, into the mix, and you trust the energy, the power of God to bring it to life and make it do something beautiful and wonderful. We are the woman, and we have the leaven. Have leaven, will travel. We are the woman, and we have the leaven. Now the question is, are we adding the leaven with skill and with concern and with care into the mix? Or are we throwing stuff willy-nilly into the conversations? Are we spouting theory and theology? Are we shouting scripture memory verses? What are we doing? Are we actually bringing leaven into the picture? Or are we bringing religion into the picture? Are we bringing political theory into the picture? Or ideology into the picture? What are we putting into the leaven of every conversation we're engaged in? Every online post we make or respond to or comment on? What are we doing, and are we actually like this one? Do you understand the kingdom of heaven is we know what we're doing, and we care about the people that are responding to what we're doing and who will be affected by what we're doing, and we know how to skillfully add leaven to make the thing taste good, smell good, feel good, look good, and actually become edible for the world. So the parable of the leaven is a very powerful little one-verse parable. And so by now, I can imagine if you're like me, if I was there physically, I would say, stop. My brain just overloaded. I never realized how important every conversation I have is. I never realized I was the woman and that I have leaven. I'm responsible for handling this leaven. Stop. Let me process that. I would have probably said that, and probably somebody did, but he kept on going.
Does the immunah go in? Excuse me. Does the immunah go in with that leaven? The Lord keeps bringing up Abraham and Isaac to me, and that picture of him laying him down, and then God sending the ram. And to me, that's almost the perfect picture of the kingdom of heaven.
Doing what you're told to do.
Yeah, just doing that and having that immunah, that God will work it all out, that we will walk those steps through our lives, and we will affect everyone around us and grow a kingdom along with our own.
That's the picture of the kingdom right there. Not individual salvation, that's the picture of the kingdom. Now, so let's move on because we're going to run out of time. I got two more parables to talk about really quick. He keeps going. He says the kingdom of heaven is like, and so here we are leaning on the edge of our seats again. The kingdom of heaven is like, here's what it's like. A treasure hidden in a field. Now, the word treasure is interesting in Greek. In Greek, it's thesaurus. You know what a thesaurus is? Thesaurus. A thesaurus is a treasury of knowledge, a treasury of word meanings, a treasury of how words fit together and operate. So that's the word they chose to use, that Greek word, which is from treasury. It's not just treasure; it's treasury. It's you're in the field and you find a hidden cellar door, and you go down the steps into the cellar, and it's not just one little treasure down there. You've got a whole network of treasures all along the walls. Maybe it's food, maybe it's money, maybe it's currency, maybe it's art, maybe it's wisdom, books of wisdom. But no one knew it was there, and you're in the field, and you stumble across this door, and you go in and you find the treasury, the thesaurus. So here we are in the thesaurus. By the way, the issue of the first one was the mustard seed, In Hebrew, in English, excuse me, in Greek, it's margaritas. 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 Anyway, I thought that was just an interesting correspondence. You got here, thesaurus and you got margaritas. You know, if you don't have enough margaritas, you got to read the thesaurus. So you find this treasure chest. You find this deep cavern full of all this wealth of all different varieties. He says that's what it's like. Kingdom of heaven is like that. And do you know the kingdom that way? Treasures everywhere. Everything about it is a treasure. Everything about it's a different kind of treasure. There's wisdom in it. There's food, sustenance in it. There's instruction and guidance in it. There's relational wisdom, knowledge in it. There's wealth in it. There's provision in it. There's blessing in it. There's everything in the kingdom. So that's the way the kingdom is. It's like that. And you just stumbled upon it. You didn't make it up. You didn't make it happen. You didn't produce it. You didn't do documents and sacraments to get there. You just stumbled across it in the field. And boy, did I ever do that. I mean, that's the way I got into this kingdom. I just stumbled on it. And when I opened the door, I was hooked. And I don't want to go back. I want to stay there. I want to keep it. So the kingdom of heaven is like a treasure in a field, which a man found and he kept hidden. And for joy over it, now this is another key of the secret of this parable. He says, not out of greed did he do this. Not out of hunger for money and wanting riches, but for joy, he went and sold everything he had and bought this field for the treasure within. Not for greed. Not so he would be able to have control or power or authority or anything. He did it for joy because he was so excited about what he'd found. The joy. Now, this is the key factor of the parable to me. Are you joyful about the kingdom of heaven? Does it make you joyful? Does it stir up something deep within you that is joyful? Or does it make you mean? Right? Y'all know people who think they know about the kingdom. They get mean. They get rude. They get angry. They get proud, arrogant. Does it make you joyful? Or does it just make you mean? So this is the key of this parable. It says, for joy, he sold everything he had. His whole priority system reshuffled. His ideas of what's valuable. This is what the kingdom does to you. You thought before thing was, the world told you what was valuable, what was important, what you should prioritize, your time, what you spend your time on, what you spend your money on, what you should spend your attention on, and what you should rest your affection on. The world told you all that stuff, and suddenly you found the kingdom of heaven. And the kingdom of heaven made you so joyful, so happy, so excited and enthusiastic about life that you suddenly said, that other stuff, What was I thinking? I was crazy. You know, John Wimber tells that story when he was high on drugs in a phone booth in L.A. And as he was in the phone booth trying to get sober enough to where he could go home, he saw a guy walking by, and it was a Jesus movement freak guy. And on the front, it says, I'm a fool for Jesus. One of those placards that has front and back. And on the front, he says, I'm a fool for Jesus. And Wimber starts laughing. You know, he's drunk. He's high. He's not drunk. He's high. He starts laughing. He's sitting there doubling over in the phone booth. And the guy keeps walking by, and on the back it says, whose fool are you? I'm a fool for you. That's kind of, but it's not about condemnation. It's about joy. Do you understand? Do you understand how wonderful this is? This kingdom of heaven vision is? Do you get that? If you get that, then you'll change your priorities in your value system, and it'll change everything. That's the way the kingdom of heaven works, he says. It doesn't hit your mind, it hits your heart, it hits you deep in the spirit, deep in the neshama, in the God-breathed spirit. So for joy over it, he goes and sells all that he has and buys the field. Final parable for the day. One more time. The kingdom of heaven is like a merchant seeking beautiful pearls. This is problematic for Jewish people. You know where pearls come from? You know where oysters come from? The bottom of the sea. Under the sea. Under the sea. Down where it's wetter. Everything's better. Take it from me. down into the sea, and they are unclean. They are the residue, the sediment of all the filth of all the ocean is resting upon them and in it. So it's not a kind of thing that you would say, this is immediately going to shock the attention of the hearer. We ain't never going to look for pearls. The other thing about pearls is it's kind of a fool's game. It's kind of like me going to the Diamond Cave up there at, what town is that? Prescott or Murfreesboro? Malvern, that whole area. If I went up there and looking for a diamond, thinking I'm going to find me a diamond, I'm going to find a lot of dirt. I don't know what to look for in a diamond. I don't know where to look for it. I don't know how to do it. I never even studied it, never thought of it. It would be stupid for me to go looking for a diamond, get myself all filthy and dirty and sweaty up there in the middle of the summertime and come back with nothing, just a bunch of frustration because I was looking for a diamond. That's the way it is with oysters and with pearls. One out of about 10,000 pearls oysters has a pearl. Did you hear me? 1 out of 10,000 oysters has any kind of pearl. A pearl is made whenever sand or some other product gets inside the shell with this critter, this unclean critter, and begins to irritate the critter, and the critter produces some substance that makes it encapsulate the sand particle or whatever it is, and begins to harden over a period of time. It turns into a crusty thing, and it turns into a pearl of some color, some variety, some size, some shape. But most of them, if you find 1 in 10,000 actually has a pearl, most of them are little bitty and miscolored and misshapen, and they're not the kind of thing you want to put on a necklace or on a ring. They're just pieces of grit. That's 1 in 10,000 you get grit. 1 in 10,000, you get a little speck of grit. You know how many it is to get an actual free-formed, perfectly formed pearl? 1 in every million oysters has a perfectly preformed pearl that you could actually commercially use. So when he starts his parable, kingdom of heaven is like a merchant seeking beautiful pearls. Do you know how rare this is? Especially in that day when you couldn't buy them on the open market. They'd have fake pearls. This is real stuff. And to make a commercial pearl, somebody had to be down in the ocean digging through oysters over all day long, every day of the week, for years sometimes, to find one pearl. So it's like, this is dumb. This is a stupid parable, right? Nobody would do that. The kingdom of heaven is like it, though. It's like a king merchant seeking beautiful pearls, who, when he had found the one pearl of great value, the 1 in the million, when he had found that, he went and sold all that he had and bought it. Now, what was he going to do with one pearl? Why did he buy the one pearl? What would you do? He went and sold everything that is a total priority system, like we said the last time, the field with the treasure in it. Why he sold everything that he thought was important before was no longer important for one pearl. In your head, you're saying, no, bad investment, bad idea. You can't do anything with the pearl when you get it. What are you going to do? Try to protect it? Defend it? Get an insurance policy from Elmer? Against somebody stealing it or taking it or breaking it? What are you going to do with this pearl? He says, it's got a place that fits somewhere. You don't even know where it's going to fit. That pearl is going to fit somewhere. The pearl is going to adorn something. It's going to bring something into a beautiful state that it wasn't in before. But you don't know where it is. Why would you do such a thing? That's the kingdom of heaven. You realize how valuable this will be in its proper moment. Kingdom of heaven is going to provide not your money, not your finances. It's going to provide your sense of purpose of, I'm actually doing something for the sake of the kingdom. I'm actually doing something for the longer range, greater plan, the great chessboard process of God. So that's the 4 parables he tells this week. Any thoughts? We want to wrap this up and let the kids go home and let everyone else go home, but that's a lot.
I just still keep thinking about the witness throng and the fact that he called the people a witness throng. Uh, I think it's hard to overestimate the importance of that, because he never said take a handful of tracts from Bill Bright's ministry and go knock on doors. He didn't say take the Roman road and go share it with people. He didn't say those things, and they didn't do those things to be called a witness throng. What did they do? They shemad the voice of the Lord, and they followed the Torah. And I wrote down in my notes, have you ever changed your calendar for God's, exchanged your holidays for His holy days, counted the Omer, celebrated Passover, Shavuot, Sukkot, etc., observed the Sabbath, took off work because God said not to work that day, fasted on Yom Kippur? Can I get a witness? And I mean, those things he said will witness to the world. And Messiah said, if we would lift him up, he would draw all men to himself. Well, how do we lift him up? By following his commands, following his mitzvah. And, today's idea of evangelism almost excludes all of that. It does tell us to live like, the Bible teaches, but it kind of excludes the Old Testament because that was for somebody else, or excludes Torah. Yeah. And so I think we've missed the point a lot altogether. How we lift him up is following those commandments, and how we become the witness wrong. I mean, how many of you, since following the Torah to whatever extent you are, have people said, you're not eating pork? How come? Or you're what kind of holiday are y'all doing? Isn't that a Jewish thing? Or they're asking you questions like that. That is God sending you people to knead the dough in. Yeah. Yeah. And the he's handing you the lump of leaven to hide in the dough, and so, and I know we've experienced that since we've been, trying to follow Torah. Is we've had so many opportunities to share what we believe God was really teaching in those instances, and how to be the kingdom of priests and things, So I think when it comes to our idea of salvation, we haven't changed the fact that we believe you must confess with your mouth and believe in your heart the Lord Jesus and all those things of that nature. We believe that's part of your salvation, but we believe how to get there really, and how to lead people there is through observance of his commands and his Torah, and he'll send the people to you. I mean, he'll put you in the field that has the pearl of great price. He'll give you the lump in the dough, and put you in it where you want to be. So I think that's the more bigger picture of how to become a witness throng and a real witness for God.
Again, witness is, and what he says is what he's seen and what he's heard. And that's all he's got to say. Not his opinions, not his belief system, not his doctrines, not his teachings. He's got what he's seen. That's what a witness does. If you call a witness and they start talking about other stuff, Your Honor, object. I object, Your Honor. That's not qualified to give. Witness is here to testify as to what he's seen and what he's heard. And he's going beyond that. He's no longer in the realm of his testimony. And that's the way it is with the kingdom of heaven. If we're going to be witnesses, we got to say what we've seen. And if we hadn't seen anything, we need to shut up. and we I got nothing to say. I got nothing to say. And hopefully none of us will be in that situation or that way. We all have something to say. We've all seen something, right? We've all seen the kingdom of heaven. We've all seen it work in real ways in our real life. It's really changed our thought, the way we think about life, the way we value things and prioritize things. What we think is important and what we think is not. That's changed everything. Changed the way we talk to our kids and train them up. Changed the way we have conversations around the dinner table. Changed the way we put stuff on social media. Changed everything about our conversations in the workplace. Changed everything. Well, it's time to go home. So Shabbat Shalom to all. Find the kingdom of heaven. Hope lift up your heads and find the kingdom of heaven staring at your face. Oh, yes, yeah. Isn't this? Isn't this good? I mean, what God does is just incredible, and we just pass it by and think we know it all. We start exploring again.
It's wonderful. I love when they, you know, you look at them as like a book, it's kind of